And now, it's Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk on AM 650. Now broadcasting from the Barber & Co. studios. Here's your host, Tyler Grain.
Vancouver Whitecaps had two matches this week, both draws. Yawn. And now the long weekend off will break those down for you. And, of course, talk a lot about the games that were. A lot of Whitecaps content in tonight's starting 11. The All-Star game, almost here. Bayern Munich and the World Cup stars invading Portland on Wednesday. We'll talk about that, plus changes in Montreal and Philadelphia. Good evening and welcome. It is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk right here on AM 650 Radio in Vancouver. My name's Tyler Green, on Twitter at TylerGreenFC. Also available online at am650radio.com. Thank you for listening, whether it's live or on the podcast. The first half kickoff is brought to you by KO, Kevin O'Toole, and findaproperty.ca. Full details at findaproperty.ca. Kevin O'Toole, he needs some homes to sell. He's doing so well, he's selling everybody's house. He needs more. More info at findaproperty.ca. Kevin O'Toole, licensed realtor with Prudential Sussex Realty, online at findaproperty.ca. Well, the Vancouver Whitecaps with a couple games this week. Of course, off this weekend. It was a draw last weekend against FC Dallas at BC Place Stadium. Then they jet off to Chicago, one of the best cities in North America. If you're a soccer fan, highly recommend going there. That saw the Whitecaps draw the fire in the Windy City. Well, now they're off for the weekend, and it's time to reflect back on the Whitecaps, what they've done over the last few weeks. Just one win in their last 9 games, but then again, only 2 losses. Reflect on that in the manager's rant at about 11:15 this evening. Bayern Munich, well, they're set to play against the MLS All-Stars this coming Wednesday in Portland. And with so many World Cup winners and participants, World Cup participants, that is, on the squad, it's probably going to be the most exciting All-Star game to date. I think a lot of people looking forward to this one. Probably the toughest ticket in town or in North America. I've already had about 7 people asking me if I can either get them tickets or get them a media pass for this one, because they want to see World Cup winners in action. And Portland is just a fun city to go and watch a game in. It's pretty meaningless in terms of the standings, and of course there's always that chance that your favorite Major League Soccer player is going to get hurt. It is in fact a glorified friendly, but I think it's important because it's one of those games that is going to garner interest in people that aren't really normally interested in Major League Soccer. And hey, those fans might just come out to the game and think, hey, I need to go see another game. I need to go see another MLS game with MLS stars in action. Who knows? Somebody might be converted. So we'll see. And it is important as well because it helps the league grow. And yeah, the league is doing well. There's more sponsorships. There's a TV deal, etc. But it's still growing, and it can get bigger. And these type of games, they're necessary. It's a necessary evil to have an all-star game. But it does lead us to our Barber Poll question today, presented by barberandco.ca. Who will win the MLS All-Star game? Is it going to be the Major League Soccer All-Stars who really haven't had much luck in these All-Star games? Or is it going to be the European side in Bayern Munich? Simon and I will answer that question in the starting 11, but you can answer it right now. Tweet us your thoughts with the hashtag BarberPoll on Twitter at SoccerTalk650. The Barber Poll is presented by Barber & Co., Gastown, Yaletown, the Financial District, and a new location at Cambie and 18th. On Twitter at Barber & Co. Visit them online, barberandco.ca. I'm going to a wedding tomorrow up in Osoyoos. Needed to look good for it. So, hey, went and saw Martin down at the Gastown location. Got me sorted, gave me the new haircut. barberandco.ca to get the look you want. All right, coming up in the first half of the program, Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk contributor Simon and I, we're going to dive into the starting 11. I'm going to get into some discussion about Canadian soccer, what's wrong, and how to fix it with Will Cromack, because he is trying to fix it. He has a petition out as well. Notdownthemiddle.com is his website. So we're going to hear what his ideas are for a solution. And we're also going to try to squeeze in some Canadian soccer talk with Tesho Akindele, who was in town last weekend with FC Dallas. We'll hear from him whether he's getting a call-up for Canada, whether he's even been called by the Canadian national team. In the second half of the program, a big second half, former Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeper Joe Cannon at 11 o'clock to talk about this goalkeeper situation with the Philadelphia Union. Joe was part of a similar situation here in Vancouver when David Osted came to town. He was the man. Then Osted comes in, and it's, well, when David's ready, he's going to be the guy. Brad Knighton also a little bit in that situation. So, Joe, you're kind of you're, for the lack of the better term, you're the guy we don't want anymore. And Joe, well, kind of maybe had a difficult situation. We'll ask him about that. But Zach McMath, he was the goalkeeper with the Union, the number one guy. Now how's he supposed to react? We'll basically get Joe Cannon to give Zach some advice through us. So we'll discuss that among other things with Joe Cannon, including Jada Merritt, his old roommate with the Vancouver Whitecaps, about his retirement. Jonathan Tannenwald will also be by. He's on his way to the MLS All-Star Game for that match in Portland. So we're going to talk about that and all things MLS. Kind of almost with the schedule, it's weird, but it's basically a 2/3 mark report card with Major League Soccer and Jonathan Tannenwald tonight at 11:30. And as always, like I said, the manager's rant and everyone's favorites topic. It is hot fudge. Everyone looks forward to hot fudge at about 11:50 this evening. You're listening to Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk. It is on AM 650 radio in Vancouver, and you want to get into Kia Vancouver because only at Kia Vancouver, free lifetime car washes, oil changes, and get this, free lifetime airport shuttle and parking service, Southwest Marine Drive at Yukon, KiaVancouver.com. My name's Tyler Green. Simon Fudge and I, we debate the starting 11 next.
Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTalk650 and at Tyler Green FC. This is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk on AM 650. We're back. This is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk on AM 650. Now broadcasting from the Barber & Co. studios. Here's your host, Tyler Green.
Whitecaps are off this weekend. Won't be back in action until after the All-Star break when they return next weekend against Sporting Kansas City at BC Place Stadium. We gave away tickets to that game last weekend, so hopefully it's a good one for our big winner there. Mid-season report card for Major League Soccer with Jonathan Tannenwald at 11:30 this evening. We also have Will Cromack in about 15 minutes, and of course Joe Cannon, former Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeper, at 11 o'clock this evening. That's all right here on AM 650 radio. Right now, Kia Vancouver has a selfie contest. You can win yourself Whitecaps tickets, autographed jerseys, and a full car detailing as well. All the details are on our Facebook page, facebook.com/soccertalkvan. You can check out on how you can enter and all the cool stuff that you can win. All right, it's starting 11 time where Simon and I debate the 11 hot topics of the week. You can tweet us your thoughts on the starting 11 on Twitter at Tyler Green FC and show contributor, goal.com writer. What other newspaper is it, Simon?
Vancouver
Courier. The guy writes everywhere. You can't get rid of Simon. Simon Fudge 74 on Twitter. And we'll start with number one. Now 6 draws in their last 9 games. Carl Robinson saying, I'm sick of draws. Are you?
Yes, I am. There have been too many. And it's, even though the Whitecaps have been very good and defensively resilient, and that would give their backline a lot of confidence, I think you cannot succeed without winning, and that requires goals, 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 and we have not been seeing that lately. And sure, point gets you something, but it's not what they need right now.
I think draws are better than losses, and the single points are good. But yeah, I think they need to start winning at some point, and they need to start doing it soon and start winning against some of that tougher competition. Sporting KC next week would be a great opportunity. They're at home. Get back on a winning track at home. I think it would be great. They've got a bit of time off here this weekend before they get back into it. So, hey, I'm sick of draws, and I think a lot of people are getting sick of the draws. They want to see some victories. Yeah, draws are great. Yeah, like you said, Simon, a single point obviously always better than losing, but we want to see some wins. It's time to see some wins.
Indeed. Number 2, the Caps have 8 days left before their next match, which will be home against Sporting Kansas City on August 10th. What must they focus on during this break?
I think they need to focus on consistency. That's sort of been the biggest thing that has been killing the Whitecaps. They've had players, you look at Fernandez, has a great game, and then a poor game. Just this past week, Gershon Kofi, same way. That's sort of been his knock for a lot of the season, that he's just kind of been inconsistent. I like that Carlisle Mitchell had a pretty good bounce-back game earlier this week against Chicago from the dreadful performance that he had against FC Dallas. But, it's we need to see more of those better than the worse, and consistency for me is that big thing. They need to work on being a lot more consistent. And the second thing they need to work on, the biggest two things for me, is those mental mistakes that they make. Carlisle Mitchell had the big one. They seem to always make one big mistake that either costs them 3 points and gets them a draw, or just gets them no points whatsoever. So those are the two things that I think the Whitecaps need to work on this week.
For me, it's sharpening their attacking chemistry that I think they need to work on the most. They made it far too easy last Wednesday night against Chicago for them to be dispossessed in the attacking when they were in the attacking third. Hurtado and Maddox tried to dribble and beat defenders, and they were just getting the ball taken off them with tremendous ease. So I also saw a lack of sort of understanding and movement in between the likes of Morales trying to play a ball in, and then Maddox making the wrong run. The chemistry just isn't there, and they need to work on that, certainly between the attacking midfield end and the striker end. And that's an area I think is that they've got to really focus on going into this game against Kansas City next weekend. I think as well it wouldn't hurt if they did a little bit of shooting practice as well.
Number 3 on the starting 11, quote, "It feels like soccer can take over hockey and football one day, and it should happen in 10 to 20 years. That was the comment from Whitecaps designated player Pedro Morales earlier this week. Can it?
Not so sure it can. In this marketplace, I can certainly see soccer gaining a lot of ground as it goes along. But in terms of being able to overcome the popularity of hockey and football, that is always going to remain a challenge for anyone who's certainly going to be trying to push the game and promote soccer in Vancouver and Canada. It's going to be always an uphill battle.
Whatever Pedro was smoking, can he send some to the studios? No, in all honesty, I don't think it's going to be able to take over hockey. Everyone's a hockey fan here. We actually were having this conversation the other day. I was anyway with Peter from Modern Burger. And we were talking about Seattle and how Seattle is just a sports town. It doesn't matter if it's the Sounders, if it's the Seahawks, whether it's the Mariners, but they get people to go out and people enjoy that sporting experience. Whereas here, you're a hockey fan, and then you might like one of the other sports, whether it's soccer, whether it's football. You do have the hardcores, but in general, it's not really that I'm going to go to anything. I'm going to go to any sporting event. And I don't think it's ever going to take over hockey. I can see it right now, I think, football of the CFL variety and MLS with the Whitecaps, the Lions, Whitecaps really battling for that number 2 spot. And yeah, they get more people to football games right now. They do play less games. So on average, you are getting more people to Whitecaps games in general, or overall more people. And then the numbers, I think, are a little bit skewed by places like Regina, where football is God. But, in this market, I think that there is a possibility that soccer and the Whitecaps could overtake football as being the number 1 sport. And I think they're doing a lot of things right in growing it. So I can see that happening, but never is it going to take over hockey.
Number 4, Montreal Impact relieved sporting director Nick DeSantis of his duties this week, with head coach Frank Klopas assuming that role and staying on for 2015. What would you have done?
I probably would have done the same thing. I thought maybe they might just get rid of Frank Klopas, but obviously he gets the vote of confidence from his past experiences, and I think it's always a little bit difficult when you have 2 different viewpoints. When you have a guy that's making the player moves, and then you have a coach that wants to coach a certain way, it makes it difficult. You don't have that meshing of ideas together, and I think that was the biggest problem with what Montreal had. We saw it with Jesse Marsh. It seemed to work with Schallenbaum last year, but Klopas, I think, just had this different philosophy, and it just didn't work as a meshing unit. It wasn't cohesive, and so taking DeSantis away and now giving Klopas a little bit more of that reign and figuring out what he needs in players to make this team work, I think is a great move for Montreal.
I would have done what Joey Saputo did. I'm going to go slightly in a different direction with this, but I think in a lot of ways it was a move that probably should have been made earlier in Montreal's MLS era. They needed to be aware that within their club structure that they carried a lot of it carrying over from their Division II days, that they didn't have all the answers. And the Impact have a notorious habit of thinking that they always have the answers. It's when they actually get themselves into trouble that they end up thinking that way, and they do so on quite a regular basis. And I think yesterday this week really confirmed the reality had set in for the Impact as an MLS club, that that what they thought they knew about being in this league and how to compete in this league wasn't the case, and the reality has set in as a result.
Starting number 5 of the starting 11 with pre-MLS figure like DeSantis leaving Montreal, should the Vancouver Whitecaps consider similar changes?
Yes, absolutely. Philippe Germain, who covers the Montreal Impact, made some very interesting comments in terms of the Impact's ability with soccer technical decisions, and he used quote the quote deficit of competence unquote. And that, for me, just drew a lot of very similar parallels with the Whitecaps. Both clubs basically carried over the same leadership structures from their Division II days into MLS. And for me, and I believe that this is inevitable, the Whitecaps ownership group will at some point undergo a process of reinvention with this club at some stage. And a big part of that reinvention process will be to restructure their pre-MLS executive that they currently have. Why do they need to do it? They need to do it because they need to get more modern soccer background in, and more than anything, they need leadership in there, which is something that I think is incredibly deficient. If you need a reference point as to why they need to do this, just look at the fiasco of the last offseason as being evidence.
I think the Whitecaps overall, I think, are fine. Business-wise, sponsorships up. Season tickets are up. People wanting to go to games are up. They've only had 1 game, I believe, so far this season that wasn't a sellout in Major League Soccer. So I think that's fine. And then I look at the team, and you look at Carl Robinson's in charge. Carl Robinson's making these player decisions. He's trying to mold the team in his image, and that's how he's doing it. And he's got a guy like Greg Anderson, who's the capologist and figuring out ways to how is this going to fit in the cap. And I think that is, in a way, the way they need to go, and I think they're going in that direction, and I think it's fine the way it's going. Look, they had Tommy Sowen, MLS guy, through and through. It was a disaster. So you could go all NASL and it can work. You can go all Major League Soccer and it could be a disaster. Both things are going to happen. I don't think the Whitecaps need to make drastic changes, and I don't think they need to follow similar changes like Montreal did.
I'm just thinking a little bit more long term in terms of the points that I made, but you make a very good point on that. I think I certainly believe. Number 6 on the starting 11. David Beckham is still trying to find a stadium location for his Miami team, with Commissioner Don Garber stating, quote, "We remain focused on a downtown Miami location, and we will not expand to Miami unless we have a downtown site for the stadium," unquote. How does this look for MLS?
It doesn't look great for MLS, in my opinion. You have great little things with New York City FC and the way it's working there. Orlando City is trying to make some big moves. They've signed Kaká and trying to do some big things there. And now all of a sudden, you get, Miami with a big name like Beckham in it, and you just can't get a stadium. You can't get it done where you want to get it done, and you have all these roadblocks, and it just shows that it just doesn't have that cachet just yet and that ability to make it work just yet. And I think it looks kind of bad on Major League Soccer that they're having, Beckham in particular, is having so much difficulty making this happen.
I ended up looking at this question and coming up with a different answer. I think in some ways it makes MLS look credible because they are insistent on their standards that if you are a new franchise coming into this league, you must do so coming in with a soccer-specific stadium in place. And methinks that they can't see Miami working unless they have a downtown stadium. So that's basically what they're insisting on, and that they must see it. I think there's some credibility that the league is actually showing, because that's all based on prior lessons that they've learned from other expansion scenarios that they've gone through, and they're applying it here, and they're not going to waver from that. So I think in some ways it gives them a sense of credibility that this is where we are now as a league, and this is what we expect Miami to be, and this is what we need to see if Miami's going to become a reality.
Methinks we're on to number 7 of the starting 11. Over 40,000 fans saw Levi's Stadium. That's the stadium that the San Francisco 49ers are going to move into. It opened up to an actual San Jose Earthquakes match versus Seattle. What does this do for the Earthquakes in that community?
Well, obviously, those that attended the game were obviously there to see the new stadium. But I hope it helps raise the profile of the club amongst just sports fans in the Bay Area. I mean, they are the big MLS club in Northern California. So I also hope it maybe will provide a bit of a boost for season tickets for their new soccer-specific stadium next season, which they're going to be moving into. It looks like a great facility that they're going to be moving into. So in a lot of ways, I hope that will be this thing that will attract them to go over and make more of a commitment to watch the Quakes.
Yeah, I would agree with your assessment there. It's kind of like the MLS All-Star Game and my thoughts that I gave you on that in the opening segment there, where it's going to draw somebody in that's not necessarily a Major League Soccer fan or even a soccer fan for that matter. You're going to go to a game and you're going to either be entertained and you're going to be wowed by the spectacle of it all, or you're not. But it's an opportunity, and over 40,000 people had that opportunity where they looked at it and could have gone away with, yeah, I want to go to an Earthquakes game now, whether it's in their current stadium or maybe it's next year with that new stadium. But you have given them that opportunity to kind of look at it and think, yeah, I want to go. I want to go to another game, and maybe they go to one. And I've had friends that have done this with the Whitecaps. They've gone to one game, not being that great of a soccer fan, but they've gone to one game, and then they've thought, wow, I had a great time. I'm going to go back. Now, they haven't bought season tickets, but over the last 2 years, they've bought somewhere between 5 and 10. They've been to 5 or 10 games, and that's where you start getting things. You get them into 1, you get them into 2, you get them into 3, and sooner or later, maybe they are on a waiting list for season tickets. Maybe they have that 5-game, 10-game pack, what have you.
Number 8, Philadelphia Union have signed Algeria's World Cup goalkeeper Raïs Mboli. Was this a good move for Philly?
I think it's a weird move for Philadelphia. You have a starting goalie that basically has played every game. You have the number one pick of the MLS draft from this past year, and now you go and sign a guy that's basically going to be your number one goalkeeper, and you have two players that are probably going to be slightly unhappy. So I think it's kind of a bad move for Philadelphia. Good in a sense that, hey, now you have like this actual number one keeper that's probably better than both of those guys, but bad in the sense that you have now possibly some issues with guys being divided in the locker room of, well, this guy should be playing, or now this guy's going to be gone, or this guy's a good friend and you're not going to let him play at all. So I think there are some other issues involved there.
It's a strange move. I mean, on the face of it, it obviously looks like they have boosted their goalkeeping ranks, but chemistry amongst the squad and amongst the three goalkeepers there, yeah, it does cause a bit of a concern. The last thing you ever want to have is a squad getting sort of unrest within it if something like that comes across. I mean, obviously the Philadelphia have felt that Zach McMath's performances have been a bit of a concern. They've obviously gone out and got more experience. But I have to admit, I don't think McMath is going to be very happy with this. He has been their number one, and now all of a sudden he's been effectively ousted.
And two things on that. One, we'll talk to former Whitecaps goalkeeper Joe Cannon about that very specific topic, about being the guy, and then bringing in somebody else that is basically going to take over your job. What advice would he give to Zach McMath? And Philly.com writer Jonathan Tannenwald, who covers the Philadelphia Union on a regular basis, our Major League Soccer insider here on the program, he will join us at 11:30 to talk about that move, among other Major League Soccer issues. Number 9 on the starting 11, the March to the Match podcast, which is Major League Soccer's podcast, brought up a very interesting debate, and we're bringing it here to number 9. Which designation is the future of the league? The designated player or the homegrown player?
I believe it's the homegrown player, because MLS's legacy will be in the American/Canadian player being produced by its clubs over the next few years. And that's players that will go on to play in the highest levels of the game. And I think next 5 to 10 years, people will recognize this league by the homegrown player, the player that they have produced, that comes from this part of the world. And I think that will be the designation that people will know them by.
And this isn't a cop-out answer, but I think it's a bit of combination of both. And it starts with what you said, Simon, where it's those young players coming into the league, like a DeAndre Yedlin, of a player that grows through the league and then all of a sudden just shows that he is one of those players that demands to be one of the top players in Major League Soccer. And then I think it comes down to, well, now we need to keep that player. And that's what's going to take is a designated player designation. So I think it starts with that homegrown player and then grows into trying to keep those players around as designated players. Or maybe that's gone in a few years, and maybe it's just being able to keep those players on whatever contract it is. But I think it's a little bit of a combination of both.
Number 10, what's more interesting, the MLS homegrown game or the MLS All-Star game?
For me, it's the All-Star game just because it's Bayern Munich, because there's World Cup champions involved, because I'm a Bayern Munich fan, because I'm a Germany fan. So for me, it is that game in particular, and I think that one has the potential to turn people into fans. But I do have a bit of an interest in seeing some of these younger players. But I would like to see the homegrown game be done a little bit better. I would much prefer it to be basically 2 players from every Major League Soccer team as homegrowns and play an East versus the West game and have it done that way, as opposed to the young homegrown players playing the U23s from Portland. To me, that seems a bit odd. And even if it's not the U23s in Portland, just pick the best homegrown players and play another team. Another team. Maybe it's the USL Pro All-Star team or what have you. But for me, it's just the homegrown game is a little bit weirdly set up.
Both games look intriguing, but I'm leaning towards the homegrown game because for me, I want to see the young players that on display in that match, the players that are coming through, what's emerging in the league. That for me, I think is the thing that interests me is to see those young guys coming through, what to expect and what we should be anticipating as stars that are going to be guys we're going to be talking about regularly over the next 2 or 3 years. I totally agree with you in terms of their opponent, Portland Timbers U23s. I do think an USL Pro All-Star side or some other kind of team would have been a better showcase for them. And I think that'll have to be given some thought going forward if they're going to continue to do the homegrown game in years to come.
And finally, on the starting 11, the last one, should Tesho Akindele get a call-up to Canada's friendly versus Jamaica on September 9th?
Yes, I think he should. It will be important for him to continue getting starts with FC Dallas through the month of August and actually score, I think, a couple more goals if he can achieve that, particularly the starts. If he can continue to get starts, then I think he should go to earn a call-up from Benito Flora for the Jamaica friendly.
I think he should, and like you said, he's got to perform. But I think just in general, he needs to get a call-up to show him that Canada is interested in him playing, and also in the opportunity for Benito Floro to see these players in action within the system that he wants to play and with the other players that he's decided to call in, and bring in some of these youth players and younger players that have something to bring to that Canadian men's national team, and get a feel for him, because they've got a Gold Cup coming up and you want to see who's going to be on that roster, and he is a guy that could potentially be on that roster, so why not early get a look at him?
Absolutely. It's the first North American friendly, I think, for Floro, and he hasn't even had a look at Will Johnson up close either. So,
Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk, the Fantasy League contest. It is presented by Umbro Canada. Our August quest, who's the hottest? Visit facebook.com/soccertalkvan for details on that and how to join the league. And we'll wrap up our July contest now. It was the worst overall score in the month of July, and Ronald Martin with Rayford FC, well, he was the biggest loser. He killed it. Well, he got killed, I guess. If he was a real manager, he would have been sacked. Quite honestly, he would now be looking for a paycheck. But he'd walk away with some nice Umbro gear. In our Umbro prize pack, courtesy of our friends at Umbro Canada, Umbro, proud to be the official supplier of Canada's men's and women's national teams, celebrating 90 years of expertise in the game. If you want your club to play like the pros, dress them like the pros, Umbro.com. Umbro, the heart and soul of football. I had my my game earlier this week, wearing my new Umbro Speciales. 5 goals in the last 3 games. Those boots have turned me into a goal scorer, and I'm a defender. How does that work? Thank you, Paul Dolan. All right, speaking of Canadian soccer, Will Cromack. He's a soccer coach here in the Lower Mainland, and he has some ideas and a petition about fixing the Canadian game. And we're going to speak with him next.
This is Kia Vancouver's Soccer Talk on AM 650. Now broadcasting from the Barber & Co. studios. Here's your host, Tyler Green.
Whitecaps draw twice this week, now off until next weekend when they host Sporting Kansas City. I guess, well, they are going to practice, obviously, come this week. But I guess Russell Tybert, really the only guy that's sort of has something to do. He's playing in the homegrown game, so he'll be participating in that. Still to come on the program, we have Joe Cannon talking goalkeepers. The goalkeeper situation in Philadelphia is so confusing, so we'll talk to Joe Cannon about that, his thoughts. He was in a somewhat similar situation here in Vancouver. As well, Jonathan Tannenwald, who writes for Philly.com, will join us at 11:30. He'll talk MLS All-Star Game and, of course, that Philadelphia Union situation as well. And it is our Barber Poll tonight, presented by Barber & Co. online at barberandco.ca. Who will win the MLS All-Star Game, Bayern Munich or the MLS All-Stars? Let us know on Twitter at SoccerTalk650. Time now to talk a little Canadian soccer. And, well, it's kind of, right now, one man's quest to improve the game for the better here in Canada. Will Cromack joining us now to talk about his plan for improving the game in Canada. Will, thanks for joining us here on the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
Now, first off, I want to get your thoughts on just where When you decided that you wanted to step up yourself and do something about, well, the lack of, I guess, Canadian international soccer glory?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, many of us are on the sidelines day in, day out, coaching little ones, and we have the same whinges. I think unilaterally talking about the plague of the game and all its various incarnations, and I thought there was too many tiny fires that might be worth aggregating everybody and putting them in one place. I mean, I developed a soccer program and had difficulty getting information out to people because there just seemed so many walls in all the environments. So I decided to take it on myself and try to get people collaborating and working together.
Now, tell us a little bit about the program that you've got involved in, and as well, I know that you have some sort of a 5-step program to make Canadian soccer grow from the youth and get that better all the way to the top.
Yeah. Well, my original program began as a reward program for kids in developing soccer. And that program I call Play Better. And it's a free program, and it helps coaches engage in focusing on the right development. Where I then took it to was I developed a petition site, if you will, or a place to aggregate names. Knockdownthemiddle.com, and I decided I would at least, at minimum, put out some solutions, and decided to have 5 steps that I thought might bring people together and help recreate the future of Canadian soccer.
Well, let's go through the steps, and I guess the best place to start is step 1.
Yeah, you got it. Well, step 1 for me was governance and altering that governance so that the pyramid was in line with what other nations who were having success were. So top-down model, the pyramid being CSA, guiding and directing those of us out in our provinces, provincial bodies becoming CSA outposts. No one loses their job. Everybody's in line with what's being talked about. And ultimately, that would include something that CSA has spoken about before, which is central registration, meaning kids and players would register directly with the CSA, helping them be more powerful from a marketing standpoint and having that data to actually maximize where the players are.
And then obviously it goes on, so why don't you just kind of take us quickly through the rest of the steps here?
Well, 2, I think that we need to spend every dollar we have on coach education. We need to bite our lips, and our technical directors, our head people need to stop coaching teams and really take every dime we can get and put it towards coach education, so we can empower coaches from the very bottom, 5 years old and up, to have a single coach can really impact thousands of kids over time, and
right.
that's a way to get development going. Within that, our governing bodies, CSA needs to deliver even the most basic curriculum, something that we can truly use as a guiding post to implement what's called long-term player development. There's lots of great ideas out there, but give those educated teachers, those coaches, a place to start and a place where everybody's on the same page, and then tweak that. Another key point is freedom.
Right.
Is open those markets up, allow people to help, allow people to work together, to collaborate, private, public, academies, anything, and everybody should be able to put their oar in the water. And if there's guidance from above, if there's leadership, which is all it really takes, as you can see by tennis and basketball, people will start producing players, start producing teams, delivering to every kid, every player, not just the ones that are in the 1%. And, ideally we're moved forward. And last point, and point 1 of governance and point 5 here, a league, are the most difficult, just because of structure and money,
right.
But ultimately a league that will be giving an opportunity so that the pathway can be completed from 5 years old to 23, 24, a CHL-esque environment, but a semi-pro league that will dovetail into a domestic pro league over 10 years. And I think there's ways you can sustain it as well using registrations, but those are all up for argument. And I'm not here to say I have all the answers, but those are solutions that people can live within and actually, help out on.
Will Cromack joining us here on Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk. Free lifetime car washes, oil changes, and get this, free lifetime airport shuttle and parking service. Southwest Marine Drive at YukonKiaVancouver.com. Will, how has this been received? Because I imagine that obviously, I know that you've gotten into a couple different media publications over the last week here. I know that guys like Jason DeVos have tweeted it, but how's it been received overall by sort of, I guess, your peers, and then has even anyone from the Canadian Soccer Association looked at it and kind of talked to you about it at all?
Well, I mean, I'm a fairly big Twitter guy.
Right.
Yesterday we had retweets from Canadian soccer directors. We had, over the course of, the last week, we've had shares. We've had people reaching out. We've had hundreds and hundreds of people signing up. And we don't know where they're coming from. They're coming from all over the country, people who may not even be living in the country right now but have a vested interest in the idea that Canadian soccer becomes better. So, I would say that nobody's necessarily reached out to me from Canadian soccer, but people have paid attention.
Right.
And I think largely there is an overall understanding that I'm not here to pretend I am going to do this alone.
Right.
Or I want to do this alone. I think the allowance of people to put their oars in the water, as I said before, and really kick on and allow everybody to contribute is my rallying cry. I want you to help if you want to help, and many people down where I'm at do want to help, and many people from professional environments do as well.
Will, obviously there's a lot of information out there. Where are the best places to kind of find you? I know you're on Twitter at Will Cromack, but what are some of the websites people can go to find more info about this program and some of your other programs as well?
Yeah, well, I mean, my website is goplaybetter.com, and we'd love to have people throw their name in the hat and their friends and family and share at notdownthemiddle.com if they indeed believe that there can be a better future for Canadian soccer.
Will, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we got the word out a little bit here on the program. But thanks for joining us, and all the best with the programs.
Wonderful, thanks, Tyler.
That was Will Cromack joining us here on Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk, and of course, just another one of the guys out there that's trying to make Canadian soccer better, and really that's what we need more of. We need more guys coming up, not necessarily with the ultimate solution, but getting more people talking about it and offering up some solutions so we can pick and choose and figure out, okay, Will came up with these 5 steps. We like 1, 2, and 5. So we're going to use that from here. And then for this guy brought up these issues, and we're going to use that in this spot. So it's good to have these kind of conversations.
It is. It'll be interesting to see if he or someone else kind of develops from there the possibility of taking those steps and then sort of almost saying that there needs to be a consistent pattern of how every kid in this country should play the game as well, which I also think is probably a huge thing. If there's a Canadian way of playing that could also be implemented right across this country.
Hey, go and visit our friends Closed Loop Mobile Oil Change at closedloop.ca. They come directly to your home, maintain your vehicle with warranty-approved parts and fluids, and if you mention it, you heard it on the show, you get an extra 10% off. closedloopoil.ca. Around the Globe is coming up next.
This is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk. This is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk on AM 650. Now broadcasting from the Barber & Co. studios. Here's your host, Tyler Green.
Coming up in just a matter of minutes, former Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeper Joe Cannon, as well MLS insider Jonathan Tannenwald at 11:30 this evening. We're going to talk MLS All-Star Game with Jonathan, as well as some of his report card picks of the best and worst team in Major League Soccer and what people outside of the Vancouver market think of this Vancouver Whitecaps squad, plus this crazy situation in Philadelphia. What are they doing with a new goalkeeper when they already have a number one? We'll talk to actually both Joe Cannon and Jonathan Tannenwald about that in the second half of the program. But right now, let's check the latest headlines from around the globe, taking a look at the news, notes, and rumors from around the globe. All right, talks with Rubinho have not gone well in Orlando, and, well, the talk is that they have broken off completely. Meanwhile, Orlando say they have no interest whatsoever in Ronaldinho, which usually means they are very interested in Ronaldinho. Former Vancouver Whitecaps FC forward Marcus Haber has signed a contract, a 2-year deal with Crew Alexandra FC of League One in England. Meanwhile, Cristiano Ronaldo has graced the cover of Men's Health magazine, being heralded as the fittest man alive and fittest athlete alive. You can steal his workout and diet secrets inside that magazine. And Simon Fudge actually taking notes right now about Cristiano Ronaldo's workouts. Romelu Lukaku has made the Everton switch permanently. It's a £28 million move from Chelsea, and signed a new 5-year deal as well. And Chelsea are planning to reward their fans by offering ticket discounts and travel subsidiaries to away games outside of London. That sounds like a pretty good deal there for Chelsea fans to do. Maybe taking some of that £28 million move that they're getting to do that. Liverpool are about to start work on a £260 million redevelopment of Anfield. The derelict houses adjacent to the main stand, they were finally demolished. And finally, in around the globe, West Ham, and I think this is the best one of the bunch, West Ham owner David Gold apologizing to Sam Allardyce after accidentally favoriting a supporter's tweet calling for the manager to be sacked. Good move. Well, I'm off to Soyuz tomorrow for a wedding. A bit of a road trip. Going to take up the Kia Sorento from Kia Vancouver, 396 Southwest Marine Drive at Yukon, and KiaVancouver.com. The Sorento, the perfect vehicle for a getaway. Jonathan Tannenwald at 11:30. But up next, former Vancouver Whitecaps goalkeeper Joe Cannon joins us to talk all things goalkeepers and what he's up to now.
Follow us on Twitter at SoccerTalk650 and at Tyler Green FC. This is Kia Vancouver Soccer Talk on AM 650.